Good afternoon. I'm Brian Richardson, Public Information Officer with the City of Eugene. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, our elected leaders are coming together to talk about the protests that we've seen over the past week in our community and the impact that they've had. We will start with Eugene Mayor Lucy Vinis. She'll be followed by Springfield Mayor Christine Lundberg, and we will finish with Lane County Chair Heather Buck. She will conclude with our scheduled speakers. We will be taking questions from the media following the conclusion of this press conference on the phone number that we shared in the news release. With that, we invite Eugene Mayor Lucy Vinis to the podium.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Let me begin first by saying I share the outrage and grief at the cold-blooded murder of George Floyd by Minneapolis police officers, and our community rightly joins the protests that are rocking the country. As responsible, compassionate human beings, we must not stand silent, and we must take action. On Sunday, I was proud to join the thousands of people who came out in protest, calling for an end to systemic racism and for police reform. And I thank the young organizers, Madeline and Spencer Smith, my colleague, Councilor Greg Evans, who's here today, Senator James Manning, and all the other speakers who challenged and inspired us. We have also joined the country in experiencing violence, unleashed in fire, destruction, and the threat of more damage. Sadly, on Friday, the first night of protest, people were faced with an aggressive crowd that ran amok and destroyed several businesses. In pursuit of creating a safe environment on subsequent nights, our police officers used force, tear gas, sometimes hitting unwitting bystanders or journalists. For many, this alone proves the point. Our police department, like many others, needs reform and enlightenment. For the first time in decades, the city imposed curfews for 3 nights to help contain the violence and destruction of property that threatened to overshadow the largely peaceful actions. This is new and awful territory for us as a community, and we, your city leaders, entered it reluctantly. Our community is still in crisis. We are all living on edge. An edge that is sharper and cuts deeper for Black Americans and other people of color, for whom this kind of personal trauma is all too familiar. On Sunday afternoon, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights, protests have been robust, loud, and peaceful. Our police escorted and monitored the demonstrators on bikes, on foot, and in cars without riot gear and pepper gas. As we move forward through these days, we will continue to create a safe landscape for the nonviolent, impassioned protests and calls for change to be heard. Our police will continue to strive to balance their responsibilities to serve and protect everyone in our community. We will review police actions. We will make changes. We will learn from the trauma of this time. My email is filled with urgent community concerns, demands for police reform, police defunding, and accusations of complicity and complacency. But it is also filled with recommendations and lists of possible reforms. We've heard a lot of community interest in the policies advocated for by the 8 Can't Wait campaign, and we value that feedback. In Eugene, we do have many of these policies in place. We prohibit chokeholds, require de-escalation and warnings before use of force, and require officers to intervene to prevent the use of excessive force by other officers. We also require comprehensive reporting whenever physical force is used. In addition, we have multiple tools in place to help ensure accountability to these policies, including body-worn cameras, an independent police officer, a civilian review board, a police internal investigations team, and a police commission. While the City of Eugene has implemented most of the 8 can't wait policies to reduce police violence, we must recognize that the daily experience of Black and other communities of color continues to feel and be unsafe. It is not enough that we tick the boxes on steps to be taken. We have to actually make things better. And we have to do that together, with our largely white leadership learning to support from the leadership of people of color and listening to what is needed. This is a crisis on top of a crisis, and people of color are disproportionately and negatively impacted by both. I pledge my commitment to pursue with council and our Black and communities of color the changes we need to make in police policies. I also commit to the long, hard work ahead to dig deeper in working with those communities on the explicit and implicit barriers confronting them every day in living in our community. It is long past time for a strong presence of these minority communities in our leadership at all levels and in all ways in our community. And it is time to bring the strength, insights, and creativity of youth into focus. We will do this work together. In the meantime, be well and be safe. And now I turn the podium over to my colleague, Mayor Lundberg.
Over the past week, our community has been faced with some unsettling truths. The death of Mr. George Floyd was an unacceptable tragedy, one that has shocked us, and justifiably so. The actions that led to this unjust death are ones that cannot be condoned or supported, and our community will not support such actions. To quote our Springfield Police Chief, Rick Lewis, there is no explanation, no excuse, and no rationale reason for Mr. Floyd to lose his life in that situation. Springfield does not and will never support this system of injustice. In response to this tragedy, we have seen many stand up in peaceful demonstration to express the injustice that this act represented. To those who have had the courage to confront these injustices, we offer our unswerving support. While we will not condone violence as a solution to injustice, we welcome the opportunity to improve our own approach to these problems. These are just causes that we must continue to address, and we must do so as a community. We believe in Springfield community and its diversity. We also believe in serving all community members with respect and equity. In Springfield, we require de-escalation and crisis intervention trainings for our officers. We have a police advisory committee that provides input recommendations regarding police policy matters. Additionally, for the last decade, we've met each quarter with the Springfield Alliance for Equity and Respect to learn where we can continue to improve our service to underrepresented communities. We believe in our strength to overcome these injustices and the systemic institutions that have created them. Together, we will continue to work towards these goals. There is no easy solution. We approach these challenges humbly, and in doing so, we encourage everyone to work together. Our strength as a community, one of appreciation and respect, is what will help us through these troubling times. It is only by recognizing the strength of our diversity that we will ultimately overcome these challenges. And may we never lose hope that we will, in fact, change the way we are doing things today. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce Commissioner Heather Buck. Good afternoon. Our nation, as colonized, was conceived with racism and inequity. Even after the Civil War, we've never truly acknowledged and systematically extracted that painful fact. It remains culturally and systematically ingrained generation after generation. Until we fully acknowledge its deepest harm and merciless loss of life, remove it from our core beliefs and actions, it will remain. It has taken far too long to do this, with countless precious lives lost over hundreds of years. And now we must not turn away. Overt racism is not the only form of harm to people of color. Varying forms of discrimination has permeated all systems: housing, healthcare, education, law enforcement, sports, and business. Lane County is a part of these systems, and it is imperative that we address this fact. We play a role in changing these systems. The horrific murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis on May 25, 2020, has sparked national outrage. This has created a momentum towards racial equity in the public and private sectors that is unprecedented. We must use this momentum and work together to create a better world. On Tuesday, the Board of County Commissioners will have an opportunity to vote on a resolution crafted by our Equity and Access Advisory Committee in support of Black Lives Matter, including actionable items for change. It's entitled, "In the Matter of Approving a Resolution in Support of the Black Lives Matter Movement and Lane County's Commitment to Putting in the Work to Achieve Racial Equity." It was important to our board to not just have a resolution, but to also include specific action items towards change. We've had hundreds of years to talk and declare. It is time for action. We are committed to doing just that. I want to acknowledge that we are 3 white women of privilege speaking to you today. We are here as allies of the Black Lives Matter movement to listen, to stand in solidarity, and help carry out and carry that burden of racial inequity that our community and nation bear. Keep us accountable for systematic and ongoing change. We also need your help to make that happen. Please use this time as reflection. Who do you want to be as a community, as a nation? We are no greater than the most oppressed among us. As Ibram X. Kendi, author of How to Be Anti-Racist, says, "The story of our generation will be based on what we are willing to do. Are we willing to endure the grueling fight against racist power and policy? Are we willing to transform the anti-racist power we gather within us into anti-racist power in society?" Thank you.
And we have one question from the media. It is for Mayor Vinis. I'm going to ask her to come to the podium. Question, Mayor Vinis, and this comes from KLCC reporter Mallory Begay. What do you think about defunding the police? There were flyers recently posted all over the city asking to put funds elsewhere. Los Angeles decided on Wednesday to defund LAPD by $150 million and put that money towards helping minority communities.
Yes, I have received many emails with this question as well. I will say that we have chosen as a police department as a city to develop in 21st century policing, and that calls upon us to develop those relationships in communities between police and the communities, the people they are serving, and that requires investment on our part as a city. So I appreciate the spirit in which this is asked. I think budget questions are always a way of defining our priorities. And I think we have established as our priority that a well-trained police office that is and robust enough services to actually build those relationships in the community is a healthy and safe way to proceed. And I know that the Police Chief Skinner addressed that also this morning in his press conference. Thank you. Oh, I will just add one answer to this, which is I referenced the 8 Can't Wait campaign, and the City of Eugene is going to distribute that list of 8 police policies. We have posters. I have one here. It lists the 8 policies. They include things like bans on chokeholds and identifying where the city is with respect to those policies. So put that information out there. I have received probably close to 300 emails on this question, so wanting to get that information out to the public. Thank you.
And we don't have any other media questions, so with that, thank you so much for watching. We will get the other information posted out and this will be posted for viewing later today as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day.